The Israelites were not ready. The land of Israel was before them. It had been close to 2 years since they'd crossed through the Reed Sea into freedom. God was on their side, and Caleb and Joshua were stating loudly and clearly that this is a land flowing with milk and honey, and we will succeed there, so let's go. But they were not ready. God, in this week's portion, faces reality, and the Israelites are told they will spend a total of 40 years in the desert before they can enter Israel. The text we just heard chanted explains that the 40 years that the Israelites are to wander in the wilderness is described as a divine punishment. But one can also understand it as a timeless truth for humanity. It takes time for most of us to grasp something new, something different, especially if it's a big shift from the culture that we've been raised in. For most of us humans, this is our lot. Personally, I've had a taste of this human dynamic here at Central, where it is part of our culture to bring new music to ancient prayers. And I've heard more than once people beside me saying some version of what I say, which is, that is not the right tune to this prayer. And I think I have this experience because I was raised with a certain set of Jewish music in the 1970s and 80s. And as we know, music is different depending on where we're raised and when we were born. The more years I'm here, the less grumpy I am about the music. No offense, cantors. But every so often I find myself thinking, what is going on here? I am not ready to jump in. So the Israelites, 2 years into freedom, also were not ready for the paradigm shift of them having to be a free and autonomous people able to lead and defend themselves. They could barely grasp this idea. Even the Israelite tribal chieftains, as I shared earlier, say in this week's portion that they consider themselves grasshoppers in comparison to the people they saw in the distance when they were scouting the land of Canaan. The leaders were not ready. And here we are this week reading the story and celebrating Pride in New York City, which this year is the capital of Pride gatherings around the world. 50 years ago, there were a number of Caleb and Joshuas of their day when it came to the rights and equal status of those of us who were lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning. But for the most part, many of us in America were not ready. Exactly 50 years ago today, in the early hours of June 28th, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn on 53 Christopher Street in Greenwich Village, some 3 miles from this very sanctuary, a spontaneous protest erupted. It was a protest over police harassment and perpetual societal discrimination. And the Stonewall riots became a touchstone, a motivating force for creating a world as it should be. The Torah portion cites 40 years as the amount of time that would be necessary for the Israelites to change. And we've had 40 years plus a decade since Stonewall. And we have seen progress. There has been broad positive societal changes in how Americans view people who are LGBTQ. Same-sex marriage is legal in every state. And we have openly gay people in positions in leadership, in business, government, and thankfully in our synagogues. It took us American Jews much too long to realize what God knows, that we should not discriminate against any type of Jew. And I'm not just talking about liberal Judaism. Come see me after services to look closely at this headline from the Jewish Week on JQY, Jew queer youth, the Jewish group serving teens, primarily from Orthodox backgrounds. They now have an operating budget of $400,000. Now, don't get me wrong here. There is still serious opposition to this progress throughout many parts of the Jewish world and our larger American society. And that is why we have to be the ones, like the Israelites in this week's portion, to face the barriers within our own selves that are keeping us from moving forward. So many of us, and I include myself in this group, are like our ancestors, stuck in the paradigm of how we were raised and taught about what LGBTQ means. That's if we can even remember all the letters in LGBTQ. Slow to move away from discriminatory tropes we learn from our parents and our neighbors and the authority figures of our youth and the cultures we were raised in. Let us not waste the opportunity. The reading of this iconic portion on this 50-year anniversary of Stonewall presents us. Whether we're gay or straight or anywhere in between, let's ask ourselves, what prejudices against LGBTQ are we still holding on to? Are we allowing those who are queer in our world to live the way they want rather than how we want them to live? Put another way, are we saying you can be gay, but please not too gay? Do we find ourselves saying some of my best friends are gay to make ourselves feel better about biases we hold inside? Are we allowing our beautiful children to be the people they were meant to be? Do we embrace who they are? Are we teaching them to treat everyone they encounter with respect and with care? There's a song in the Off-Broadway musical Avenue Q entitled, "Everyone's a Little Bit Racist." The song and its title are meant to make us feel uncomfortable. Each of us, if we dig a bit, knows what we have to work on when it comes to the topic of our fellow humans who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning. Let each of us be the Joshua and Caleb of our generation. Let it be because of us that 40 years from now, or maybe even sooner, we can say we live in an exceedingly good land, not only flowing with milk and honey, but a land where the people are ready and able to treat their fellow citizens, no matter who and what they are, with dignity and respect and love. Amen.